بسم الله الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما يا عليم. اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم وافتح علينا بمعرفة العلم واجعلنا ممن يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه وبعد. Alhamdulillah, we will continue inshallah today with Makharij al-Huruf. That is the topic that we're on from this text of Imam Muhammad ibn Yusuf ibn Ali ibn Yusuf al-Ma'ruf ibn al-Jazari rahimahullah ta'ala wa nafa'ana Allah bihi. Ameen. We left off, if you recall, I will just quickly pull the slide from last class. We left off with looking at the tongue. And actually, just to recap, we looked at the major areas, and then we looked at the letters of med, where they come from, and then we looked at the throat and the letters of the throat, and then finally we looked at the tongue. I want to make a translation adjustment, actually. I noticed that the vast majority of translators are using the tip as where I wrote the front last time, and I'll stick to it because it will keep things clean, inshallah ta'ala, and not confuse you. So it seems that there is somewhat of a consensus on using the tip. So we'll do some surgery here, and we will move this up. And we'll make this the tip, and we'll say this is the frontmost tip, okay? The very point of the tip itself, okay? Or point. Just frontmost, or the tip, the point of the tip. No, very edge of it, at the very front, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, so this is what we're going to stick to, inshallah ta'ala, moving forward, and makes it easier. Just we're going to bring it to our session today. So we looked at the summary of the last session and the quiz, and then we asked for any questions. Alhamdulillah, everything's clear, and we're moving on to session 3. And where is our tongue? All right, Bismillah. So we know we have the structure of the tongue. It's clear how it looks. What we want to look at today before we continue is the roof of the mouth. Okay, so if you're looking at it from underneath, looking up at it, you're inside the mouth. You're in the mouth. You're this tiny creature that lives in the mouth and has the mouth as its roof. So you look up, and what do you see? You see, number one, we're working our way from the back out. So this is what's in English we call it uvula. All right. This is this piece that if you open your mouth, you see it hanging. Okay, it's a little fleshy piece that hangs. And in Arabic, we call it al-laha. And we will look at it. It'll come in the next few slides, inshallah ta'ala. Okay. And then this is the soft palate. Okay. This is the soft palate. So it's actually further back, if you know your anatomy a little bit. And then after that is the hard palate. Okay. All right. And then these are, in English, they call it the alveolar ridges. Alveolar ridges. Okay. And then these are the gums, essentially. Okay. So this will be needed. Why is it needed? You see, every letter has essentially, if we can say, it has two forms. You have the form of when it's sakin, and you have the form of mutaharrik. And sound, as we were saying last time at the end of the class, is produced in one of two ways. Either you're going to separate two areas, or you're going to bring areas together. That's essentially how sound is going to be produced. Okay? So it's always going to be in relation to something else, right? If I'm producing sound because I'm bringing I'm bringing two areas together, well, then we need to know what are these two areas, okay? And then if I am separating it, well, same thing. What are the two areas that I'm separating to produce this sound? This is why it's important to have the roof of the mouth in your mind as you think about the tongue, because the tongue, as you know very well, is going from right at the top of the throat all the way inside. So it's going to carry on all through this area. Okay. So now that we have this in mind, let's go to Imam Ibn Jazari's text and continue. All right. So Imam Ibn Jazari, rahimahullah ta'ala, we start right at the top. He says, مخارج الحروف 17. This is all clear, I think. على الذي يختار من اختبر. And then we said للجوف ألف وأختاها. We started in the first major articulation area, and we did say, if you remember, that this is considered not a specified but rather an estimated مخرج. ألف وأختاها وهي حروف مد للهواء تنتهي. I don't need to translate any of this anymore. We did all of this. ثم لأقصى الحلق. Now we went into the second major area. And in it, we're looking at the first makhraj, which is أقصى الحلق. First makhraj. Okay? And I will start labeling these the Roman numeral 1. Okay? Hopefully I'll remember all my Roman numerals all the way to 17 eventually. Rather, this is 2. So this is 1. Okay. ثم لأقصى الحلق همز هاء ومن وسطه فعين حاء أدناه غين خاؤها. That's it. We covered all of this. Is up until here. We have completed the second major area, which has 3 makharij. Okay? Now we're going to move on. Oh, this is not in the right place. So now we're going to move on. والقاف أقصى اللسان فوق. We're starting with the tongue. He says قاف from أقصى اللسان فوق. ثم الكاف أسفل. So we have أقصى اللسان. We have أقصى اللسان, and that is a makhraj. Okay, but we have فوق and we have أسفل. Okay, two makharij. Qaf has its own makhraj from أقصى اللسان, furthest part of the tongue. We already looked at the tongue. Okay, and kaf أسفل, little lower, meaning if you think of the tongue, it rises up and then starts descending down, right? That's how the structure of the tongue is. So asfalu, it's a little lower than the makhraj of qaf. And looks like it's decided to disconnect. Okay, so we're at qaf now, and we're at aqsa lisan fawqu. So this is qaf. Qaf is being produced. This is the 7th letter. Naam. And ثم الكاف أسفل. That's what he says. We're going to continue in the Arabic and then we're going to go over the slides after, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? والوسط. So he's moved on now and he's telling you about something else. He says والوسط. We're in the middle of the tongue now. والوسط فجيم الشين ياء. And we stop here. Okay? So you can put these brackets on. This is closed bracket because it started with أقصى اللسان. Okay? Now we can open another one. والوسط فجيم الشين ياء. These are the next few letters that are coming. 9, 10, 11 letters now. Okay? And from the makhraj, we did 1, 2, 3, 4 makharij. This is 5. This is 6. Okay? Are you guys familiar with Roman numerals? If you're not, I will have to rewrite them. You can just write in the chat box if you're okay with it. I can write them in Arabic, it's fine. Yes? طيب, alhamdulillah. At least 2 people are. The rest of you can learn from them, inshallah. طيب. والوسط فجيم الشين ياء. Okay? From the middle of the tongue. Jim, Sheen, and Ya. So let's go back to our slides now. Let's take a peek at what's going on. So we said والقاف أقصى اللسان فوق. We said that, right? Looking at qaf, it's coming from the furthest section of the tongue. This is the furthest section, right? We can divide the tongue. This is the tip. This is the middle. This is aqsa. And this area is the jazrul lisan, right? We talked about the roof. Okay? Everyone following? Yes? طيب, alhamdulillah. Yes. Okay. So if you look at qaf, qaf is coming from the furthest section. It's in relation to something. I just mentioned it earlier, right? What is it in relation to? Where is it? It comes from the region where the soft palate is. Okay? So if someone says aqo, aqo, huh? The tongue pulls either to it or away from that area to produce qaf. Okay? And then Imam Ibn al-Jazari said what? He said, ثم الكاف أسفل. Okay? Kaf asfalu. What does that mean? Lower in the tongue, right? Further closer to the front of the mouth. Furthest section still. We're still at aqsa lisan, right? This is furthest section is aqsa lisan, right? So we're still at the furthest section, aqsa lisan. But we've moved forward. Where have we moved to? The area where the soft and hard palate is. Understood? Still clear? I think there's no issue. It's not hard. So ak, ka, ki, ku is coming from further, closer, or front, or lower in the tongue. Okay. Then we said walwastu fajimu shinuya, and before that, here it is. The tongue, qaf and kaf, are called al-huruf al-lahawiyah, or al-harfan al-lahwiyan, or lahwiyain, for duality, if you know your Arabic a little bit. Okay. Why? Because al-laha is the uvula. These letters, they consider them, well, they're close to it. Okay? Uvula is right before them, the uvula. Okay? So they call them al-lahawiyah. And you're going to have to remember these terminologies. وَالْوَسْطُ فَجِيمُ الشِّينُ يَا. Okay? Jim, Sheen, and Ya. This is the middle of the tongue. If you look at it carefully, in fact, they're really at the front of the middle. Okay? If I'm dividing the tongue again, right? They're right at the front. Okay? And Jim and Sheen and Ya are not coming from the very middle, specifically from one place. So this goes back to what we said. This is a matter of perspectives, right? They said, look, Jim, Sheen, and Ya, they come from a place where no other letters really come from. Okay? Qaf and Kaf, all the way back here, right? Somewhere here. And everything else will start coming from the tip. So they said, we just leave it as one makhraj. Jim, Sheen, and Ya. Even though Jim is actually slightly ahead. Okay? If you look at the three pictures, Jim is here, right? And then Sheen is a little bit back. And Ya is close to it, around there. Okay? Aj, okay? Ash, and Ay. Ya, of course, غير مادية, right? This is not the med letter. Not med. We're talking about the mutaharrik, right? Not this, not the maddiya. It could be sakin if it has a mutaharrik before it. They're coming from middle of with the upper palate. Again, same thing. We need to understand the relationship. Okay? So if you're going to describe ya or sheen or jim, you're going to have to describe it as such. It's from the middle of the tongue with the upper palate, correspond with the corresponding part of the upper palate, in conjunction with, along with, whatever, however you want to term it. It's not important that you memorize the way I'm writing it. What's important is you can describe what I'm describing. Okay? We change terminology a little bit. That's okay. As long as you know it's from the middle of the tongue and it's in relation to something else, the upper palate. When you're going to have a student, when you're going to be reciting for ijazah, if the teacher asks you, where does ya come from? You have to be able to describe it like this. And you need to be able to think about it. I want you to think. Don't memorize things for the sake of memorizing. Reflect on it. Okay, and I'm going to keep driving this point. The Quran recitation is dhawqi. It's taste, like you taste it. You recite while you feel your tongue move. So don't become bogged down with theories. Okay? Be flexible. Now, then we continue. So khalas, we've covered the makhraj of jin, shim, and ya, and these huruf are called al-Jazariyyah, or sometimes they say al-Jazariyyah. Shajar is really the stem or the main trunk, okay? That's what it reflects on. And here we can say the center, the middle. Some have referred to it as the opening of the mouth, right? The main opening where the bulk, the dome and the tongue are. Okay, the main opening. Not the front where it reduces and the back where it's also kind of tighter. Okay. So we go back to the text and we continue. So we've covered another makharaj, and this is the middle of the tongue. Okay. And now we are at the next section, okay, which is wad. Dad is coming from where? The Imam says, min hafatihi. He's telling you very specifically where it's coming from. Hafatihi, ha here refers to the tongue. Hafatul lisan is the edge of the tongue. The edge is hafa. Okay? Then he tells you, and more specifically, إذ ولي الأضراس, when the hafa comes in connection, joined with, together with الأضراس من أيسر or يمناها. الأضراس, these are your molars. الأضراس. Okay, so we'll go back to our slides and we'll look at the teeth for a second. Okay, so this is the human teeth, and they are color coded here for ease of reference, and we'll write them in English, inshallah ta'ala. Al-thanaya are your central incisors. If you know your terminology, these are the front two teeth, the very front two teeth. Look at them, they're colored. And you'll have four of them, right? You have four central incisors, two upper central incisors, two lower central incisors, okay? Or you want to call them, I mean, this is what the terminology is, so we got to get used to it, okay? Then we have the lateral incisors, okay? The lateral incisors. That's what are next to these guys. So this is 1, 2, 3, 4. You see that? This is your lateral incisors. In Arabic, the central incisors are called al-thanaya. Okay? Thaniya and thanaya. And then you have ruba'iyya, or raba'iyya actually, and ar-raba'iyat, plural. Okay? These are the lateral incisors. And then you have al-anyab, which are the canines. Everyone knows canines. These are the really pointy ones. Okay, and how many do you have? You have another set of four. Two at the top, two at the bottom. They're next to the ladder. We're working our way outwards, from front to back. Okay. Then the next one is al-dawahik. In English, we call these premolars. Okay, premolars. These are again four. It's interesting, in Arabic, they're called dawahik. Why are they called dawahik? You know the term, in Arabic, laughter is called dahik. They called it dawahik because if you open your mouth and smile nice and wide, usually this is the edge at which you see. Like, usually people don't smile. And when you say smile cheek to cheek, they don't go all the way to your wisdom teeth, right? I mean, you don't see the wisdom teeth of the person. That's way too wide. Maybe someone is very flexible. I don't know. And they're able to open their mouth that wide. But generally speaking, I mean, it's neutral that you open your mouth. So you can see these. And on that note, that these are all considered as al-adras. Okay? Premolars and molars all together, and the wisdom teeth. Okay? In Arabic, we will call them al-adras. Okay? Just as a common term, and then specifically al-dawahik and tawahin. Okay? Tawahin is your molars. Okay? Well, this is not a good color. I'll stick to darker version. Okay? And then finally, your nawajid, which is your wisdom teeth. All right? So, what does the Imam say? Go back to the text. He says, وَالضَّادْ مِنْ حَافَتِهِ, from the edge of the tongue, is produced in conjunction with, when it is lined up with, opposite to, ladras. Ladras, I just said, it's the premolars and molars. Okay? And sometimes the wisdom teeth, but most people don't have wisdom teeth, right? So this section right here that we're looking at, this is the area that it will be produced with. Okay, the tongue is going to be right here. And he says, laysara, min aysara. Aysar means left, from the left side. Aw yumnaha, or from the right. So you could have dad produced by using the left side of your tongue, or the right side, the area that is lined with the upper premolars and molars together, that area. So what are we going to look at? We're going to look at the bud. And I just told you, this is the area that we're looking at, okay? These are the teeth right here that the tongue is going to be in conjunction with. left or right edge, or both. Okay? Both is very difficult. Most people are unable to produce dad with both sides. It's a rarity, right? The scholars, they mentioned that the left is easier, okay? The right is a little difficult, and the both edges, using both edges to produce dad is a rarity. It's rare that someone is able to do law, al, okay? Look at this this is very important for dad, and this is a key piece of information for you to use for producing dad correctly. The green areas, do you see these green areas? Okay, this area right here, all right. This is the area of pressure in dad. This is where you produce really the dad from. If you have no pressure on the side, or the pressure is in the front, the dad is going to be wrong. If the pressure is in the front, the dad is going to sound like a heavy dal. Da. This is dad produced with pressure from the front only. Da. Da. Listen to this. Okay? Da. As opposed to da. Da. The pressure is on the side now. The side of my mouth. The tongue. The side of the tongue. A lot of people, especially from the non-Arabs, cannot produce dad properly. They struggle to produce it because they don't understand the theory of it. So you need to understand the theory well and then start practicing it. And with some practice and help and guidance and coaching, inshallah, you'll be able to produce dad correctly. Okay? And it's so critical that we produce it right that the Imam back then noticed the problem of dad mixed with dha, that he wrote a whole section differentiating between ad-dad was dha, the two letters, making it clear that they are two separate letters from different places and having some different qualities. Okay? وَالضَّادَ بِاسْتِطَالَةٍ وَمَخْرَجِ مَيِّزْ مِنَ الضَّاءِ وَكُلُّهَا يَجِي. It's all going to come later, inshallah. Okay? Any questions so far? Are we okay? Yeah, someone asked, I heard you're supposed to do both from both sides or to do both, but it's very hard. Yes, to do both, and not supposed to. You can do both, but really, if you stick to the left side, it's much easier. Yeah.
Jason,
Okay. Yes, go
Jason,
ahead.
I had a quick question. When you're pronouncing the dot, are you supposed to put pressure on the edge of the teeth or just trying to do it as naturally as possible?
Yes, there's some pressure. Don't pressurize to the point where you are like squeezing. No, just a gentle pressure. You're just lifting off, you're pushing off of it in a way, if I can describe it that way.
طيب.
Now,
That's what.
it should not be made to a point where, yeah, you're every time you're like creating this massive pressure and then releasing it. No. And when you come to it, when you do lean, for instance, same thing. Light pressure, very light pressure. Now, barakallah fiik. Okay. So we're going to continue, inshallah. So we got another makhraj, which is hafatul lisan. And by the way, sorry, we're just going to go back for a second. If you remember the anatomy of the hafa, we have aqsa, the furthest of the edge. Okay, this is the furthest section because we're in the furthest section, right? Like this entire area is essentially, if we can say this area is the furthest section, right? And this is the front, the tip, as we said. Okay, so it's from here all the way to here, right? And just as we enter the tip area, it's going to be where it's just touching. It's just touching. There's no pressure on that side. So min hafatihi idh waliya. So we got another of our makhraj, the makhraj of dad. All right. This happens to be our 12th letter, and we're continuing. والضاد من حافته ولي الأضراس من أيسر أو يمناها. Then we're going to continue to our next letter, and now we're entering the new region of the tongue, which is أدنى اللسان. Okay, which we framed earlier as front, but really we're going to stick to tip. Okay, so now we're entering a new area. Okay, and this is our 13th letter, اللام. واللام أدناها لمنتهاها. That's what the Imam says. واللام أدناها لمنتهاها. So stick to the text for a second. أدناها لمنتهاها. أدنى, ha here, meaning both of the edges, the closest section of the edges. Adna lisan, so we're in that region. If you're imagining your tongue for a second, okay, adna lisan, we're at with the tip of the tongue, right, the very front area of the tongue. Adnaha limuntahaha. He refers to it like as if you're driving. So you're driving along the tongue, okay? And you're saying adnaha limuntahaha until it's muntaha lisan. Muntaha is the same as ra's lisan, okay? You remember the tongue? We mentioned it, that it's the very frontmost tip of the tongue. Limuntaha. Muntaha الشيء يعني the end of it. The end of the tongue. So you're driving along your lamb. Okay, how do you do? How do you go? You go from, if this is like a tongue, I can draw it like this, and you drive along like this, and you reach the tip. Okay, but lamb works on from both of the edges. So we go back to the slides, inshallah, and have a look. All right. So this little portion is the muntaha. Okay, muntaha lisan, the frontmost tip, right? Okay. And these is what we're talking about, the closest edges, right? We're still in the hafa, by the way. We're at the edges of the tongue. We're working on the edges. We worked on the edge for Dad, and we're working on the edges for Lam as well, okay? So just keep looking at the picture for now, okay? Don't read anything. So this is the closest edges. This is one side, closest edge, okay? Adna hafa, okay? And this one is the other closest edge. All right? Another adna hafa. This is the region. This entire region is where we produce lamb with. Okay? And remember I said don't get caught up in theory. Just do al, al on your own. Feel your tongue. Al, what's happening? It's the edge in correlation with the gums, right? The edge, which is at the tip, in correlation with the gums, is used to produce lamb. What did I write in the English? Like I said, again, it's not important how you describe it as long as you can describe it accurately. And you'll see differences in how it's been described. I wrote to make it as simple as possible. I said from closest edge of one side to the other with the adjacent upper gums. What's going to happen? Right? Your entire area is going to be touching. Right? If I can add maybe here, maybe the only thing that I can add, including the front most tip. If I can include that in here, why? Because I don't want you to. Uh, um, you'll notice that when we talk about raw, that there's actually a gap, and we'll discuss that. So everything, this entire area is touching. Okay. If you look at lam, there's something else that is that takes place for lam in particular. We'll have a discussion on the lam a little bit later, but it's here we're going to reflect on the lam that is heavy. There are circumstances where the lam is heavy. Okay? When we say the word Allah, we say it heavily. This is lam, but it's heavy. Okay, and this is pretty much the only time where you will have it heavy, unless you're reading for riwayat warsh. Then you will have some other heavy there's some other rules involved to make the lam heavy. Okay, what happens? Essentially, the back of the tongue, if you look at the two backs, it rises to produce that heaviness. Okay, and the tongue will dip in the center a little bit. It happens or occurs naturally. You're not going to be trying to pull the middle of your tongue down to produce this. Okay, if you produce lam heavy and other letters heavy, the tongue will naturally go in that shape. Okay, now, so this is lam. Is it clear? Is the lam clear? I hope you don't say la. You say na'am. Okay, we're going to continue. Now we finished lam, and this became a makhraj on its own, correct? 9 in Roman numerals, I believe. Okay, so lam, adnaha limuntahaha. Understood? The meanings are clear? أدناها لمنتهاها. طيب. Bismillah. So we continue. We go to noon now. Okay? Noon is easy. You've been producing noon pretty much, saying no a lot from a long time. And it's no different in Arabic. Na, an, same sound as English. Okay? No. Okay? Maybe you didn't think so much about saying no with where your tongue was, but today you'll do that. So you will look at noon and where it's coming from. من طرفه تحت جعلوا. من طرفه أي طرف اللسان. طرف اللسان. The tip of the tongue. تحت جعلوا. They made it from lower further, meaning lower than the makhraj of lam. Okay, so we go back and we look at noon. And if we just concentrate, don't look at anything else in this slide except for this piece right here. Okay, this is the tip of the tongue. Okay, the tip of the tongue, and it is connected to the adjacent upper gums. Okay, there's something else that takes place with noon, and this is what we call the ghunna sound. The sound that comes from the nasal cavity, we call it ghunna. Noon has to have both of these makhraj, if we can call it, usage of both makharij. So we're using one, the tongue, right? And then we're using the nasal cavity, which is called what in Arabic? Who's going to tell me what it's called?
الخيشوم.
Khayshum. Barakallahu fikum. Khayshum. This is the first time we're talking about another major region in use for a letter, meaning that we have to utilize two of these. So what are we going to say? Like, how can we describe noon accurately? We can say that it comes from the tip of the tongue with the adjacent upper gums, along with the sound that is produced from the nasal cavity called ghunna. It's split 50-50. Okay? If you look here in the diagram, look at what's happening in the makhraj of noon right here. It's blocked, isn't it? There are no further arrows. Oops. There are no further arrows exiting out, right? This is called the completed portion of the sound of noon. Okay? الجزء المكمل أو مكمل. Okay? And the continuing portion is the nose. Look at the nose. Okay? The sound will continue. If you say an, you will notice the sound gets blocked. There's no more sound coming from your mouth. It's coming from your nose. Okay? And so it has both in use, one that is completed, the sound is complete, and the other one is the completing. All right? So this is nose and tongue together to produce nun. Clear? Now, we go back to our slides and we're continuing. The makhraj of ar-ra. Okay? We're now at the makhraj of ra. All right? And this was the test. We'll write it next to it because it's not clearly in the text, it's not clearly defining it as such, but we know what it's saying. We're still in the same region. Adna lisan, the tip of the tongue. All right. Warra yudanihi li dhahrin adkhalu. I'll break it down. The text itself, so it's clear to you. Warra yudanihi li dhahrin adkhalu. Yudanihi, dana yadnu. We said earlier is that it's close, something that's close, right? We said that before. Yudanihi, ra yudanihi. Ha here is in reference to the noon. The ra is close to the noon. If it's close to it, meaning the Imam is telling you it's from the tip of the tongue. Still. Okay? لِيَظَّهْرٍ أَدْخَلُوا. This causes problems for people. So I'll break it down. لِيَظَّهْرٍ أَدْخَلُوا. The Imam here is referring to the lower portion of the tongue. If I can demonstrate it, actually, I'll demonstrate. Why am I going to demonstrate it with my hands? Let's demonstrate it here. Look at this. All right. This is the mouth. The ra is produced on the tip. But what's happening is that this portion, a little under portion right here, okay, is also in contact. As opposed to noon, which is more pointed. So let's go back to noon, okay. This area is the one that's in contact right here, okay. Not so much as this. So we're still looking at the tip, okay. When we look at it from the perspective of the noon, from the perspective of the tongue, it's pretty much the same as a noon. However, the tongue is rising a little bit in relation to the gums. In relation to the gums, it's turned upwards a bit. And this is what he called لِظَهْرٍ أَدْخَلُوا. ظهر, yani the back of the tongue, if we can think of it. Okay, the back portion, if we look at this is the top, right? And this is the back. This is the front, and this is the back. Okay? لِظَهْرٍ أَدْخَلُوا, yani a little bit back. Okay? Little bit in. Adkhal. All right? So I wrote tip of the tongue slightly upturned with the adjacent upper gums. So make it clear. Okay? لِظَهْرٍ أَدْخَلُوا, this is the meaning. Slightly upturned. So the back of it, little bit of the back of the tongue, right underneath, that. The under portion a little bit. When it lifts up, touches as well. Okay? What else happens in Ra? You see this little arrow right here. It's pointing to a small opening. The ra is produced with a small opening, meaning the sound will stop or continue from the mouth. What will happen to the sound? People awake? Sleeping? Alhamdulillah, few people. The sound will continue. The sound will go through that opening and out. The sound will go through the opening and out. Unlike noon. Noon closed the makhraj completely. Lam closes the makhraj. Okay? For noon, the sound continues. For lam, the makhraj is closed, but you'll see later when we go to do sifat, we'll have a discussion. The sound, the sides are open. The sides are open. The full makhraj is not, the full mouth is not closed. In Ra, there's a little opening and the sound will continue out from there. Okay? So this is an important quality of Ra. Ar, when we say Ar, why is this important? For one main reason. If you hear someone saying Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, you hear the amount of repetition I just did on the Ra? Okay? What are they doing wrong? What do you think? What did this person do? Did they have an opening?
There was no, Assalamu alaikum. I think there was no opening, and then that's what was causing the repetition, the tikrar.
Very good. So, not too much gap, brother Sayyid Iftikhar, rather the opposite. They've closed the makhraj entirely. Ar, and it's so hard that the tongue cannot but bounce off of it because you cannot produce a raw otherwise. Okay? And if you say too much gap, well, too much gap is if we say Ar-Rahmanir Rahim. That's way too much gap. There is no raw essentially produced. We're at the English R. Okay? Now, so Ra needs this gap. Remember this, and we're going to have a discussion further in the characteristics or the sifat section. The Ra, when it is heavy, like the Lam, it has cases where it's heavy, and we will discuss when those cases are. Same thing, the back of the tongue will rise. Okay? And here's a hint to what happens for any letter that is heavy. Okay, we go back to the text. We're deciphering, decoding Imam Ibn al-Jazari's text. And so we go back and we refer to it. This is your guide, and you have to get very familiar with it. Okay, and you don't have to use these kind of writing. You can use different writing. You can highlight. You can do whatever you want to do. Inshallah ta'ala. Okay, I just decided to break it. I break down this text every time I teach it in different ways, like the same order, the same everything, but the writing on the meten, the text itself, I change it up. This time I decided to do this. I feel like this is messy, but forgive me. Inshallah, you're able to follow. That's the most important thing. Now, so we go back, and we're starting now a whole a different set of letters. Okay, and these letters are all coming from one makhraj. Okay, والطاء والدال وتا. The Imam says, وَالطَّاءُ وَالدَّالُ وَتَا مِنْهُ. Minhu here refers to طرف اللسان, from the tip of the tongue. وَمِن, he's giving you two things now. He's actually giving you the adjacent. He didn't leave it to your discovery. وَمِنْ عُلْيَ الثَّنَايَا, and from the upper central incisors. That image should be in your mind. We discussed it, the teeth structure. We're looking at the upper central incisors, and he says, minhu wa min, from the upper central incisors. But he left it at that. He didn't specify from where of the upper central incisors, from where the ulya thanaya. Is it from them themselves? Is it from their tip? He didn't say. To be precise, we will say, wa min, the gums, litha, of ulya thanaya. Al-litha is what we call the gums. Okay, al-litha. All right. This is where the articulation point for ta and dal and ta is. They're all from the same place. Okay. So we go back to the slides. Yes, we forgot to mention this, that the lam, noon, and ra, al-huruf al-dhalqiyah or al-tarafiyah, they come from the tip, and that's what they're called. Okay, al-dhalqiyah. Dhalqiyah referring to the tip itself. Some have said that they come out a little bit, they come out easily, so they're muzlaqa, and so that's why they're dhalqiyah. But generally, that they come from the tip. Ta, dal, and ta. Tip with roots of upper central incisors. Okay, This is a ta and this is dal and ta, by the way. Hmm? So we're looking at the tip. Where is it? It's at the gums. This is the tooth itself. These are the gums right here. It's right just above it, eh? Just literally millimeters above the tooth itself at the roots of it. Hmm? When I say gums, it maybe is not clear. When I say roots, you know where the roots of the upper central incisors are. Okay, the roots of teeth are just above them, right? For the upper central incisors, and for the lower ones, of course, at the bottom, right under them. Okay? The only difference between ta and dal, if you observe, is the rising of the tongue. No other difference. Okay? And hence the importance of pronouncing the ta correctly as opposed to dal and ta. Of course, you're going to have a question, inshallah, and you'll remember it from this lesson, but not this quiz. How do you distinguish between dal and ta? For that, we have to study sifat, okay? And then you'll be able to distinguish them, okay? And be able to describe really how do you differentiate them, because they come from the same exact place. Ad and at, ad, and out. They all come from the same place. Tip of the tongue, the roots of the upper central incisors. Okay? So we're back at our guide map laid out by Imam Ibn Jazari. And we're making some progress. Okay? And we have covered now another makhraj. Now we're on to the last little leg of two more makharij before we move away from the tongue. We complete the tongue and move on. Okay? والصفير مستكن منه ومن فوق الثنايا السفلى. Let's unpack this. The Imam says والصفير. I don't know any letters that when we ask, tell me, what is صفير? I don't know it. Please tell me, ya Imam. He doesn't tell you here. Okay? He will tell you later. Where will he tell you? We will skip ahead. Okay? And we'll look at this right here. This line in صفات. صفيرها صاد وزاي سين. Oh, جزاكم الله خيرا. Now it's clear. Okay, we go back. والصفير يعني the letters of صفير. What are the letters of صفير? يا أحبابي, these are صاد, زاي, and سين. All right, three more letters. These are called صفير letters. صفير means whistling. Okay? And they have this quality, and we'll talk about it in the section of qualities next class, inshallah ta'ala. Minhu, min from what? Still stuck with minhu when we're saying minhu at this one and then and the one before it when we said is taraf al-lisan, tip of the tongue. Okay? Tip of the tongue, mustakin minhu, yani relying on the tip of the tongue. Mustakin, yani mustanid, reliant on. Okay? Minhu, the tip of the tongue. Wa min فوق الثنايا السفلى. Interesting. And from above the lower central incisors. فوق, above الثنايا السفلى. الثنايا العليا. This is الثنايا العليا. Okay? And this is الثنايا السفلى. Okay? Above it. Above it is where the صفير letters come from. Okay? So can I unpack this a little bit? Let me try. Oh, I forgot this again. Go back to the ones before. طا, دال, and تا. They're called الحروف النطعية. النطع الحنك is where the alveolar ridges are. Okay. Sometimes they call it the pre-palate area. Okay. So palate meaning soft, hard, and then in front of it's pre-palate or the alveolar ridges. You can express it that way. I've seen it written pre-palate. All right. So that's nita'. So nita'iyya, meaning that they're right near them. Okay. Sorry, I should remember that this is a slide afterwards. I keep forgetting. طيب. Let's go back to the text for a second. Reset for Safir letters. منه ومن فوق الثنايا السفلى. From it, the tip of the tongue, and above the lower central incisors. Okay? Tip placed between the tongue. Between the upper, the tip is placed between, let's do it here, like this. The tip is placed between the upper and lower central incisors, somewhat closer to the lower teeth. Okay? When the Imam said, min fawq al-thanaya sufla, he wanted to emphasize that it's lower. So this is the tongue. Imagine, dear brothers and sisters, this is your tongue, okay? And these are the lower central incisors, okay? It just sits right above it, just a little bit above it, okay? When I say S, or us, or as, my tongue is just literally millimeters behind and above. It's a little bit behind. It's not directly above. It's not like this. I can't do it. Like there's no way I can produce scene by putting my tongue on top of the tip. No, it's not on top. It's a little bit behind. Okay, and you can see it in this picture, this diagram. The tongue is slightly behind. The tip is slightly behind, and it's sitting above the lower central incisors. Okay, and this is the makhraj of Sad, Sin, and Zay. Of course, you look at it and you can see that this is Sad because the back of the tongue is risen, as opposed to Sin and Zay. All right, that's the only difference. So really, very simple difference between them. Okay. No. Sad, Sin, and Zay. When I asked what the Safid letters are, mashallah, people are alert, alhamdulillah. So this is the makhraj of Sad, Sin, and Zay. When you describe it to someone, you'll say, it's the tip of my tongue that is placed in between the upper and lower central incisors, closer to the lower teeth. Okay? All right? Your teeth will be lined up. When you say Sin, S, and that requires, by the way, for practice, you will know if you've been producing Sin and Sad and these letters, that it requires you to line up your teeth. You have to pull your lower jaw out. I'll need a couple of 1 minute, inshallah. It looks like my battery needs a charge. 1 second. Bismillah. So we're looking at from Imam Ibn al-Jazari's text. Where's the text? No. Are you able to see the text right now?
No.
No.
Okay, perfect. So we were at والضاء. Did we cover what's Safir? We covered Safir. Now we're looking at al-Dha'u والذال والثاء. So we covered al-Safir, and we said that they are placed, this is the tip of the tongue between the upper and lower central incisors, somewhere closer to the lower tip. Then, and these are called al-huruf al-asaliyya. Asal lisan, al-asalatul lisan, the tip, the very front of the tip, okay? This is how they describe the group of these together. Now we're looking at the tongue still, the tip. This time we go back to the matan, and the Imam says, وَالضَّاءُ وَالذَّالُ وَثَاء لِلْعُلْيَا مِنْ طَرَفَيْهِمَا. End. This is the section, this next section. ضَا, ذَال, and ثَا. لِلْعُلْيَا, he's referring to what here? Who knows what he's referring to? لِلْعُلْيَا.
The upper central incisors?
Exactly. Every time you're going to see ulya, lil-ulya, thanaya ulya, this is all the upper central incisors. Min tarafayhima. طرفيهما. Two طرف. What are the طرفs? The tip of these guys, the upper central incisors, and the tip of the tongue. The tip of the tongue and the tip of the upper central incisors. Okay? This is the production, this is the point of articulation for dha, zal, and tha. When I say Allah, the tip, and not to stretch, by the way, the tip too forward out. Allah, like this is not, this is too much tip. A small portion of the tip. Okay? So we go back to the slides, and I said on the slides, the tip against the tips of the upper centralizers. Keep it simple. Okay? No need to make it challenging. Keep it simple. Tip against the tip. Tip of the tongue and tip of the upper central incisors. And you see it on the in the screen itself, on the writing, the diagram itself, and you will notice that the tongue on the one on the right is raised, meaning this is law, of course. These letters together are called al-huruf al-lithawiyya. Al-huruf al-lithawiyya. You notice that they group them and describe it with what's kind of before them, if you notice. So al-huruf al-lithawiyya. Roots are actually above them, right? Because we're down. We're the tip with the tip, like this, right? But litha is higher up, right? And remember that when we said al-lahawiyya, the uvula, we're really not at the uvula, right? But we described it as the huruf of the uvula huruf, right? If we can call them, the letters of uvula, right? So these are called al-huruf al-lithawiyya, okay? And it's a terminology that the ulama have agreed to, like everyone describes it as such. So it's good to be familiar with it. Okay, then we're going to continue and move. Khalas, this is the last stop on the journey on the tongue. We move away from the tongue and we go to the lips now. And the Imam says, وَمِن بَطْنِ الشَّفَةِ وَمِن بَطْنِ الشَّفَةِ فَالْفَى مع أطراف الثنايا المشرفة. So let's unpack this. ومن بطن الشفة. He says from the bottom. If we want to say it in literally speaking, is the stomach. بطن الشيء, but it also means the inside, right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala هو الظاهر الباطن, right? So the side that's kind of not in the front, the back of what? Ash-shafa. He says the lip. So he's saying one lip. He's not saying both lips. Keep that in mind. Falfa. So he places the fa. This is because of the poetry, right? When they write poetry, they have to reorganize and restructure it sometimes to flow. وَمِن بَطْنِ الشَّفَةِ فَالْفَا. That is, fa is from the button of the shafa. Which shafa? We don't know yet. From the inside of the lip. مع أطراف الثنايا المشرفة. With the tips of الثنايا المشرفة, the upper central incisors. The noble, he says al-mushrifa, from sharif, from sharaf. Okay? The noble upper central incisors. So there's only one option. It's the lower lip, isn't it? It can't be the upper lip if the upper teeth are the ones in contact. So when we say F, 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 okay? It's the teeth, the edges, in contact with the inside portion of the lower lip, not the outside. This is a mistake that happens. We're familiar with saying the letter F in English. We curl the lip back usually, most people do, curl it to produce it from the front edge of the lower lip. This is not the case in Arabic. Okay? We keep it neutral. We don't curl anything. And we produce it by placing the tips of the front upper central incisors on the bottom at the back of it. Okay? Now if we look at the slide, you'll see it here. it is laid out for you. Inner part of the lower lip with the tips of the upper central incisors. Inner part of the lower lip with the tips of the upper central incisors. And you see it drawn where you see the upper central incisors on the diagram. Where are they? Towards the back of it, right? The lips are neutral. You don't see any curling on the diagram, right? There's no curling. Now, so this is the production point, the articulation point of fa. Okay? Then we continue and we go back and he says للشفتين for using both lips الشفتين الواو باء ميم. Three letters come from using both of the lips together. Okay? But there's some differences between them. What are the differences? Let's think about it. When you say wa, we, woo, or aw, we're talking about the mutaharrik or the sakin, not the maddiya waw. Not the ooh that continue, even though in the ooh you will have, but we said that the makhraj of it, as described or agreed upon by the ulama, is that it's the jawf. But here we're talking about the waw al-mutaharrika aw al-sakina. Al-maftuh ma qablaha is also part of it. Okay? Rounding the lips forward. This is important. Sometimes we notice that the wow is not clear. Why is it not clear? Because you're not bringing your lips out. And I like to say in English, we can say, pucker your lips. Okay? Bring them like this. Look at my lips. This is wow. When I do this, I can produce wow correctly. Rounding of the lips entirely and pushing it forward. And it requires practice if you're not used to it. You will want to say wa, wa, wa. Look at my lips right now. Wa, 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 wa. We, woo. This is not wow. Wa, aw. Okay? Huh? Mew, well. If I say mew, mew, look at my lips. Mew. They have to be forward. Must be forward. Okay? And of course, the raising of the tongue, it happens naturally when you say wow. Okay? That one doesn't need to be done intentionally. If you do this, inshallah, you'll produce the wow correctly. للشفتين الواو. What else? للشفتين الواو باء ميم. This is how he wrote, the Imam wrote. Ba. Ba is easy. You've been saying Baba and Abu and all these things from long time ago. There's no difference. Ba is ba in Arabic, the same as in English, not much difference. But it is not pa, and you will notice how it turns into a pa, of course, later, inshallah, when we talk about sifat. This is closing the lips together naturally. Okay, when you close your lips naturally, I'm not doing anything else. I'm not curling. Abba, abbi, Abu, right? Ab. Okay, I just close them naturally. This is where the point of production is. You'll have some pressure, a little bit, when you want to produce the sound, of course. But the articulation point is the lips closed together. Then finally, we have meme. Meme is like ba, in that the lips are closed naturally together. But they're like noon, meme has a secondary makhraj. And that is the nasal cavity, al-khayshum. The sound for meme continues from the nasal cavity. Okay? And this is, you can try it yourself, of course, when you say where's the sound coming from? From the nose. This is where the sound is continuing. The sound that was the start of it finished. It was completed when we closed our mouth. Ma. The part at the after part, if you say ma, is the fatha actually. It's not the meme itself. Okay? To produce the fatha, you had to open your mouth back up. Or mi or mu, and we'll talk about the harakat later, inshallah ta'ala. Okay? I think that's clear. And finally, the fa, the letters of the lips. ومن بطن الشفة فالفاء مع أطراف الثنايا المشرفة للشفتين الواو باء ميم These are الحروف الشفوية. الشفوية. Lips, labial letters, you can call them, from the lips. Easy to remember, okay? And then the Imam ends the section by saying, وَغُنَّةٌ مَخْرَجُهَا الْخَيْشُومُ. He made the ghunna like a letter. Like a letter, okay? Because it has a makhraj. The makhraj is khayshum. That's what he says. وَغُنَّةٌ مَخْرَجُهَا الْخَيْشُومُ. If you look at the text, that's what he ends the section with. And this is the end of the section on makharij. So the makharij are, if we start counting, the jaw, the halq, the lisan, the shafatan, and khayshum, major areas. And then you have three in the throat, aqsa al-halq, and wasat al-halq, and adna al-halq. Okay, three. And then you will have 10 areas in the tongue. Okay, you have aqsa, you have wasat, you have uh, hafa, right? And then you have adna hafa, right, for lam. And then you have taraf, okay, for noon and ra. They're counted as separate makhraj, right? If we're looking at the text, then we have ta coming from taraf with something, right? Ulya thanaya and dal and ta. And safi letters coming from just above the lower ones, right? Is another makhraj, another point of articulation, right? That's what we're talking about, referring makharaja, points of articulation. What's the point of articulation of ta? You have to describe it as taraf al-lisan ma ulya thanaya, or the gums of the upper central incisors, right? And then dha, zal, and tha, okay? Min tarafayhima, from the tips of both of them. And that was all of tongue. Tongue has the most amount, 10 points, and 18 letters are coming from them. I'll let you count them, inshallah ta'ala, on your own. Okay? And then finally, you have ash-shafa, ash-shafatayn. Fa is exclusive in that it only uses the one, the lower lip, the inside of the lower lip. And then you have waw, ba, and mim. Okay? And this concludes the 17 makharij from al-jawf all the way to the two makhraj of the lips. Okay, if you count them, you separate them, you will be able to write them all out, inshallah ta'ala. Okay, inshallah, we will end here. I know I went over time. I had some technical issues. I apologize for that. If anybody has questions, now would be the time to ask, inshallah ta'ala. Barakallahu feekum.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Question about the makhraj of dha.
Yes,
Is there an element of touching the adras when you pronounce it?
no. Absolutely not. If you start touching the adras, you will start going towards the dad. And that is the one of the fine or important information that we use to differentiate al-dha and al-dad. والضاد باستطالة ومخرج ميز من الضاء وكلها تجي. This is what the Imam will tell us in the section on الضاء الضاد والضاء والضاد باستطالة ومخرج. ضاد by استطالة, we will discover استطالة next class. ومخرج, and from its مخرج, ميز, separated, clarified, okay, from الضاء. Absolutely no reference to الأضراس, no usage of molars, the gums at the molars.
Sheikh, Barakallah Feek, just another quick question about Dad. So you said that the point of pressure is the front of the tongue and you're just touching the edges, like the molars, correct?
The
Like
point
not.
of pressure is not the front, it is the
Oh,
side of the tongues.
okay.
Yeah, the green area right here that you see, okay? This green area is the pressure point. the area of pressure. The front is منطقة التلامس, contact region only. You're in contact. You don't try to keep your tongue away in Dad from the front. Okay? It's touching, but you don't apply pressure there. The pressure is applied to the left. Okay, on the left side, from Adna Hafa to Aqsa Hafa, this whole green area, right? From one side or the other side or both sides if you can. And that's how you produce blood. So yeah.
Barakallahu fiqh. And another quick question for the part of the matan. I know you covered this, but could you just briefly mention من طرفيه والضاء والذال والثاء العليا من طرفيهما, the
Yes.
two طرفs that it's referring to here, it's the
Yes.
tip of the tongue and the tip of the incisors, the upper tongue.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. طرفيهما, from both of their tips.
Okay. Barakallahu fiqh.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh. I had a question about the dad. Just on that diagram that you were mentioning, the
Yes.
green areas. Is the pressure being applied like on the gums or on the edges of the top molars?
Yeah. It lands almost a lot of it on the gums itself, with some pressure on the teeth. Again, it's a matter of perspective, and everyone's tongue anatomy and mouth structure is not the same, right? So the way they describe it is with the adras, with the molars. But in reality, how does it work? Usually, the pressure is, most of it is on the gums.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
No,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Okay. If anybody else has any question, inshallah. If not, you have some work to do to unpack this section, inshallah ta'ala. Today I know was a heavy class. I know that. So take your time, okay? Go through that section from the beginning of it, okay? From مخارج الحروف 17 till the end, and make sections. Take a highlighter and make sections, okay? Take color pencils, pens, whatever you have, and make sections. You know, it makes it easier when you break it down that way, okay? And you'll be able to identify, like if I ask you, give me the evidence for where ta and dal and ta come from, you should be able to tell me والطاء والدال وتا منه ومن عليا الثنايا. Done. That's all you tell me. Okay, this is the evidence for it. Okay, so, and then unpack it. Unpack it to yourself. A way to unpack it is as if you're teaching this to someone else. Okay, so you will say, and so Imam here explains to us that ta and dal and ta come from, minhu here refers to طرف اللسان, from the tip of the tongue, ومن عليا الثنايا, from the upper central incisors, but he didn't specify. If you remember, I said he didn't say exactly where from عليا الثنايا. It's actually the roots of it. Okay, unpack this to yourself as if you have a student in front of you. It will really help, inshallah ta'ala, make everything clear. If you're able to do it easily without referring to the text, that will be the goal. The goal is to be able to do this to a student in front of you, to your your grandparents, if you have. Okay, being able to make it simple for them. Okay, and then refer to the text as evidence, inshallah ta'ala.
Sheikh, sorry, one last question.
Yes.
The line in the matan, وَالنُّونُ مِنْ طَرَفِهِ تَحْتَ جَعَلُوا. What is the translation of that line again? Could you
So
share?
the noon is from the طرف. He here is al-lisan, من طرفه تحت جعله. تحت جعله. When he says تحت, it means lower in the tongue. They made it. اجعلوا يعني علماء who did the تحقيق of these مخارج, جعلوا مخرج النون تحت مخرج اللام. يعني it's a little bit lower. It's closer still. And if you think about it, the lam was that entire area, isn't it? Whereas the noon is a specific area. And it's more towards the real. We're now really moving towards the further front of the tip itself. So تحت here means a little in literally lower, because the tongue kind of goes down in your mouth. That's one way to describe it. Or further closer to the front of the mouth.
جزاك الله.
وإياكم. Inshallah, we'll stop here. We went a little bit over our time. Inshallah, I pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes our journey through this one of ease and benefit, and understanding and application. Ultimately, like I said, the important thing from all of this is to become proficient and accurate reciters of the Kitab of Allah, Kalam Allah, as was recited upon the tongue of our noble Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, received to us over the centuries, teacher after teacher. Okay, so we want to get to that. We want to recite the Quran like how the Prophet ﷺ recited it. Okay, and like how the Sahaba recited it. That is the goal. So keeping that goal forward, this is important. It helps you understand how to produce these letters, but this is not the end. This is a means. And inshallah, we pray that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes this means easy for us. Inshallah, our next class, as you know, is Tuesday evening, 7:45. Inshallah ta'ala, I will see you all بإذن الله تعالى then. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
السلام ورحمة